Hello everyone and welcome to today's Home Designer Custom Roof Project. My name is Kayla and I will be presenting today. And we do also have Emily here with us. She's going to be chatting today, answering any questions you might have during the presentation. To start with, let's go ahead and take a look at your GoToMeeting system. The standard is to use mic and speakers for your audio. Now, we do have everyone muted today, so you don't need to worry about setting up a microphone. But if you're having difficulty hearing me, go ahead and select this audio setup button. It'll take you through some troubleshooting for your audio. If you still have problems hearing me, go ahead and change the radial button over to use telephone. A number and a pin will appear below so that you can listen in that way. Like I said, we do have Emily here with us, so if you have any questions during today's presentation, just go ahead and type it into the question box and hit send, and Emily will respond to those questions. If you don't see that control panel that I was just showing you, it does minimize to a little blurb at the top of your screen. So go ahead and select this orange button and it'll maximize that control panel for you. So today I will be using Home Designer Professional, but I'll be going over mostly our automatic roofing tools, which will apply to the majority of our other programs, and I'll be very specific when I use something that's only available in Home Designer Professional. So today we're going to start by looking at our roof defaults and a little bit about how roofs work within the program. Then we're going to take a look at our automatic roof styles, like I just mentioned, going through some of the more basic styles like hip and gable. Then we're going to take a look at some dormers, use our manual roof tools that are available in Home Designer Professional, and we'll finish up by doing a 1.5-story roof project. So to begin with, I'm just going to open up the program here. When you first open up any Home Designer program, this welcome screen will appear. Here you can choose to start a new plan. You can open a plan that you've previously been working on, or you can select this Getting Started button. It'll take you to our website where you can get some more training options for the program. When we select new plans, here's our template chooser. These are templates with various defaults set up in the program for your materials. And with this drop down, you'll find some actual pre-designed plans that you can work with. Also note that here's where you can change your plan into metric units if you're not going to be using the US imperial units. I'm going to go ahead and select cancel because I already have a plan open that we're going to use today. So to begin with, let's just talk a little bit about how roofs work in Home Designer programs. So we have this Build Roof dialog box, and I'm going to open it up because on the last tab of the Build Roof box, we have this Roof Styles tab. Now each one of these are going to explain the steps that I'm going to go through today on how you can create these various styles of roofs. So if at any point you need to go back and reference this, you'll find it in the Build Roof dialog box. Now the way in which our automatic roofing tools work in general is that we open up the wall that the roof plane is bearing on in order to edit the roof. And so to begin with, we're actually going to start by drawing out our walls. So I'm just going to start by drawing a basic box. Again, I selected my straight exterior wall, and I'm just clicking and dragging to draw out my walls. And as soon, I'm going to go back into this Build Roof dialog box because I do want to check this Auto Rebuild Roofs. By default, this is usually checked within the program so that as soon as we finish a room, these lines will appear. And these are actually our roof planes. And you'll see this 8 and 12, that's specifying the pitch. So as soon as you finish a space, by default, the roof planes will appear above it. And we'll take a full overview of this so we can see what was built. So this is just our basic hip roof that's going to be built when you first finish a room. And I'm going to select Shift F6. And what that does is it tiles my 3D and plan view vertically so that I can be working in both at once. And I'm just going to zoom in using my scroll wheel on my mouse here. And then I want to dimension this space before we do anything else. So first I'm going to select a wall that I want to move, and you'll see two dimensions appear beside it. We have one that's parallel, telling me the length of the wall, and one that's perpendicular to the wall, telling me the distance from that wall to the one opposite it. So I can put my cursor right over either of those dimensions and type in where I want that wall to move. And you'll notice it moved to 36 feet. It updated that view. I can also select the dimension that's parallel to the wall and type in 26 feet, and you'll notice again my view updated accordingly. So now that our space is dimensioned, let's go ahead and look at another roof style. So we'll start with a gable, and I'm going to show you really quickly. So here's our gable style. This is what we're going to be doing next. It's basically just two roof planes on opposite sides, and we're going to remove the roof planes over two of our walls. So to do that, I'm going to select the two walls that I want to become gable walls, and I'm going to hold down my control key so that I can select both walls at once. That's something that we can only do with Home Designer Professional, but it makes it nice because I can come down here, open up both walls, and select this full gable wall option, which is under my roof tab in the wall specification. So again, we're going to be opening up the walls in order to edit the roof in using the automatic roofing tools. And when I select OK, you can see the view updates accordingly. Now we're going to go ahead and do our shed roof. Okay, so here is our shed roof. And so it's going to have, just like the gable, but it's only going to be on one side. So to do that, we're going to open up the wall that we want to change to a shed wall. And again, open it up, and under the roof tab, we'll change it to a high shed gable wall. Select OK, and we have a pretty steep pitch there for a shed roof. So we're going to select the opposite wall, and you can see that this is the roof plane, the wall that the roof plane is bearing on at this point. So we'll open it up, and under this roof tab we also have the option of selecting our pitch. So I can change my pitch to 4 and 12, which means that for every 4 inches that I'm moving over, I'm going to go 12 inches up. Select OK, and you can see that pitch updates so that we have a more common pitch for a shed roof. So next, let's get back to our gable roof, and to do that I'm going to open up my high shed gable wall and deselect the high shed option. Select OK. You can notice we have two separate pitches on each wall, and you can see it a little better in our plan view here. One is 8 and 12, and the opposite side is 4 and 12, and so it created the actual salt box effect as opposed to our gable, which is more of an even roof plane. So I'm going to open up the wall that currently is specified as 4 and 12 for the roof plane and change it back to 8. And now we're back to our basic gable. So next we're going to create our gambrel style. So this is the barn style. It's going to look like this, where we have two roof planes bearing on each our top and bottom wall. And to do that, I'm going to open up the top and bottom wall, the ones that currently have roof planes bearing on them, and we're going to select an upper pitch. And what that does is it creates two completely separate roof planes with different pitches. I'm going to first change my lower pitch, the one that's going to be with the first baseline, and we're going to change it to a 6 and 12. or 10 and 12, excuse me. And the upper pitch we're going to leave at 6 and 12 as it's specified here. And then we're going to give a number how far in from the baseline it's going to be. Now the baseline is this line that appears here. It's kind of hard to see in this view, but I'll zoom in on it a little bit later. What it does is it's a line in 3D space where the roof paint plane is going to rotate when you change the pitch. And so we're going to specify how far in from the baseline we want the second pitch to start. So let's do 40 inches. You can also specify at what height you want that second pitch to start. Select OK, and now we can see that gambrel style where we have two completely separate roof planes with different pitches bearing on each of our top and bottom wall. Now we're going to do exactly the opposite in order to create our gull wing style. So this is exactly the opposite of the gambrel, where the lower pitch is less steep than the upper pitch. So we're going to again hold down our control key to select both our top and bottom walls, open them up, and we're just going to reverse the pitches. So we'll do 6 inch and 10 and 12. And then we'll leave it at 66 inches in from the baseline. That's fine. Select OK, and now we have the gull wing style. And you can play around with these quite a bit in order to create the exact style that you're looking for by changing the pitches, editing how far in from the baseline they are so that you're replicating your exact design. So next, let's go back to just our basic gable. So again, we're going to open up our top and bottom walls, come down to the Edit toolbar and open them up, deselect the upper pitch, and let's bring it back to our default 8 and 12. Select OK, and now we're back to our gable style. Next, let's create our half hip roof. So what that's going to look like is this style where we have a little bit of a half hip. It's kind of a combination between our gable style, which would go up and over, and our hip style, which would have a roof plane bearing on all four walls. So to do that, instead of opening our top and bottom walls, let's open the two walls that are currently specified as gable walls on the left and right. Come down here and open them up, and notice we don't have a pitch, it's grayed out, and that's because we do have a gable wall selected. So there's not a roof plane bearing on this wall at this point. But to create our half hip, we can select this upper pitch button and specify a pitch that's going to create that half hip effect. So let's do 4 and 12, and then this number is going to be again how far in from the baseline on either side of the wall our hip is going to start. So let's do 60 inches to begin with. Select OK. And here we have a pretty deep half hip. So we can continue, I'll open up both of these again, and pull them further in from the baseline, which will create a smaller half hip. So let's do something more like 100 inches in from the baseline. Select OK. And now we have more of a smaller triangle hip area. So now we're going to go back to just our basic hip style again. And to do that, I'm going to select my two walls, which are still gable walls, open them up, I'm going to deselect my upper pitch, and I'm going to deselect my full gable wall, which is going to allow me to specify a pitch again. And when I select OK, we're back to our hip style that we began with. So now what we're going to create is our mansard roof. So this is going to have our flat top and 4 roof planes, a roof plane on each wall. So to do that, we're going to open up all 4 walls, because this is going to be something that will affect all 4 roof planes. Open them up, and now we're going to select an upper pitch while we're in our hip roof. I'm going to change the upper pitch to 0, which is going to create that flat roof up top. And we're going to move it, let's do 60 inches in from the baseline. Select OK. And now we have that half hip. Okay. So now we have a roof pitch here and then a flat roof up top. And you can change how far in from the baseline you move those and create a number of different mansard roof styles to work with. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to go back to our gable style. So I'm going to open up all 4 walls, deselect my upper pitch, select OK, and now I want to change my left and right wall back into gable walls. So I can open up my wall specification box, or we do have a shortcut down here in the edit toolbar. It's just here on the end where I can click and change to gable walls without having to get into the wall specification. So that's a handy little shortcut to keep in mind there. So let's take a look at some of our dormers. And to do that, I'm first actually going to open up my room. So I'm going to select inside the room. You can see it's grayed here. And in my Structure tab, I'm going to deselect ceiling over this room. What that does is it creates my cathedral ceilings so that when I drop in my dormers, we'll be able to see into the room there. Select OK. And now, under our roof tools, we have 2 different dormer options in Home Designer Professional. We have our auto floating dormer, which is going to be the dormer option that's available in all the Home Designer programs. It's also known as a decorative dormer. And we also have our auto dormer tool, which is more of a structural dormer. And we'll work with that one a little bit later in one of the plans that we'll be doing later on. But for right now, we're just going to drop in an auto floating dormer. So I'm simply going to click where I want that dormer to be on the roof plane. And you can see it drops it in. And from here, I can actually copy this dormer and pull it over. You also have the option down here in the edit toolbar, this center object, so that I can make sure that my second dormer is centered in the center of the room. And I can drop in another one. So we have 3 dormers in our plan. Now you do have the option of actually opening up these windows and editing them just as you would any other window in the plan. So even though these windows are attached to the dormers, you still have full control over what they look like. So we can change them to a fixed glass and add a couple of lights there. So still create all of your different window options. But you also have the option of selecting the dormer and opening it up. And we have quite a few different things that we can change here in this dormer specification box. The first is we can change the type of roof that's over our dormer. So by default it's a gable, but we can change it to, for instance, an eyebrow dormer. And select OK. And you'll see that eyebrow dormer, very easy to create with one click. Can also open up our other dormer and change it to, say, a barrel roof. So a lot of different options for your dormers. You can raise and lower the height of the dormer, how high it's going to be underneath the space, and we'll work with our structural dormers a little later, and I'll show you some more options that are available there. Now let's swing around to the other side of this roof because I want to drop in a skylight. So again, under our roof tools, we have this skylight option. So we can just drop that in and you'll see it updates there. And using our edit handles, we can resize these. So create any shape or size that we would like. And if we rotate around in our 3D view a little bit, we can see into that space. And I also want to show, so I'm going to open this up. I'm going to delete these dormers first. Just go through and select the dormer and hit delete. Now when I open up this room and under my structure tab, reselect ceiling over this room, which is going to put my ceiling at 109 inches by default, you can see it creates the hole all the way down to your living space. So if you don't have a cathedral ceiling, you can still place a skylight in there, and it's going to automatically structure it to look all the way into the house. Alright, so now I'm going to delete this skylight, and let's create a flat roof. I'm going to rotate my view around again, and I'm going to open up my top and bottom walls that currently have roof planes bearing on them and change my pitch to 0. And I'm also going to change the overhang to, let's say, 2 inches. Select OK, and you can see it created that flat roof. Now I'm going to open that up one more time because I do want to point out, even though I specified 0, it did change it to 1/4 and 12. With our automatic roofing tools available in all the Home Designer programs, the closest we can get to 0 is 1/4 and 12. It likes to have an actual pitch for the automatic tools. However, I'll show you later we can actually create a true 0 in 12 pitch by opening up our roof planes themselves. So we'll do that with our manual roof tools in just a bit. So now I'm going to go back to our gable, change it back to 8 and our overhang to our default. And now let's create a clerestory roof, clerestory. So we can see here's what we're going to be designing next, where we have a higher pitch up top where it creates room for our windows. So to do that, we're going to start simply by drawing an exterior wall in the middle of the plan. And I'm going to center it exactly using my Center Object tool in my Edit toolbar at the bottom. And then I'm going to draw a second wall opposite it. And we can specify the exact distance simply by selecting the wall that we want to move, putting our cursor right over the distance, and I actually wanted it to be 2 feet 6 inches, so that was very close. Now what we're going to do is change these two walls to our high shed gable walls, because we're basically creating 2 shed roofs facing each other. Select OK, and we're not going to see anything update yet because we haven't raised one of the rooms. So next, we're going to open up one of the rooms. I'm going to open up the larger one here. And we're going to raise the ceiling height to, let's do 160. And select OK. And then we're going to open up this room here in the middle and deselect roof over this room. So now we have our 2 shed roofs that are facing each other. And I do want to change this wall so that it's reverse in the other direction, simply by selecting this reverse layer button with the wall selected. And what that did is now I have my siding facing the correct direction. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to get into the Build Roof dialog box again and deselect Auto Rebuild Roofs, because I have the roof planes set exactly where I want them. So now when I make any changes, I don't want the roof to update with it. Select OK, so that now I can select this wall and delete it, and you can see it created that structure for us. And you can drop in windows here and edit them. We'll pull it up to the top. So floor to top we'll do 150. Select OK. And I do want to actually remove the ceiling over this room as well. And over this one. And I'm going to get into a glass house view so I can see where my window is right now. So we have a lot of different rendering options. We can see now there's where my window is located at this point. So I can raise floor to top to 40. And now I'm going to get back into just my standard rendering so that I can select that window and pull it up exactly where I want it. I'm going to rotate around so we can see it a little better. So using these edit handles that appear, I can resize and restructure my windows and then copy and paste them all across here. So we have some nice windows looking into the room. And we can multi-select these windows so we can copy multiples at once to speed things up a little bit. So very easy to create our Clerestory style. Alright, so now I'm going to actually exit out of this plan that we've been working with. And I don't want to save it because I'm going to open up that exact same plan again. And maximize this space. So again, we're starting with our blank slate. So I've kind of been showing all of these different roof styles just using our basic box structure. But obviously, most people are not going to be creating just a box home. So I want to show how we can apply these same principles to a non-box structure. So I'm just going to draw out a structure. And again, using my exterior walls, I'm just clicking and dragging to create this space. And we'll just draw it out. Come up here and over, and we'll complete the room. And again, I want auto rebuild roofs on so that whenever I make changes, those roof planes will appear. So now let's take a look at what this looks like so far. Again, it created that hip structure just by default. So any room that you create, no matter what shape, it's going to put a hip roof on there by default. And we can very easily make changes to create exactly the structure that we want. Again, I'm going to select Shift F6 so that I can have both views tiled vertically. And zoom in with my scroll wheel. So not only am I going to do an unusual shape, but I want to have multiple stories. So I'm going to create a second floor. To do that, I'm going to get into my floor tools and select Build New Floor. And it's going to ask me whether I want to derive the second floor from the first floor plan, or whether I want to basically just create a blank sheet that I can draw my second floor from scratch. I'm going to derive it from the first floor and then move the walls from there. So I'll select OK. It'll ask me to set up defaults. I'm going to leave everything the way that it is. And when I select OK, notice in our plan view it's moved us up to floor 2, and then it created the second floor that we can see in our 3D view as well. Now what I'm going to do in our plan view is select Reference Display, and you can see these light blue lines that appear, which is showing me where all of my walls are on my first floor. So that now, when I move these walls, I can see what's going on the floor below it. So I'm going to rearrange these walls simply by clicking them and dragging them using the edit handles. And I'll select this one and pull it in as well. So now we have our two-story and we can begin editing. One last thing I'm going to do as well in relation to this drawing is let's create a deck. So I'm going to use my straight deck railing and just pull this out, and as soon as my deck is created, you can see it framed it for me. I'm going to get into this room by selecting inside my deck room, opening it up, and selecting roof and ceiling over this room. Click OK, and now it created a covered porch area for me. And obviously this is encroaching on my second floor, so the first thing I'm going to do to edit this space is I'm going to open up these two walls. Deck railings are also considered walls, and we can edit them exactly the same. They will also have a roof tab. And I'm going to change the pitch to, let's see what 6 and 12 does. And that pulled that down below. Next, I want to create a couple of gable walls. So this is going to be our garage area. I want to gable over the garage. So I'll select that wall, and instead of having to open up the wall specification, I'm just going to, in my edit toolbar, hit change to gable wall. And voila. And then we'll do one more on the other side. We'll select this wall, and I hit my tab in order to select the next object. That's a handy tool to have in your back pocket there. And with that wall selected, even in a 3D view, I can come down to my edit toolbar and hit change to gable wall. Now I also want to point out, so I want to lower this pitch, so we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to hold down my control key to open up all three of these walls and change the pitch to 6. So it pulls it down a little bit, not quite so intrusive on that second floor. Now let's drop in a couple of windows. Use our window tool and just place a couple side by side here. We can center them by selecting both at once, coming down to the center object and center it right in the room. And then with both selected, down here in our edit toolbar, instead of gable over the wall, changing the entire wall to a gable, I can click this gable over window and it'll create that nice little gable structure over my windows. Now you also have the option, I'm going to drop in a staircase here leading up to my front porch, and what that does, with my scroll wheel I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see this better. It creates a little doorway. That's what this space is, the space in between my two railing panels, and over the doorway I can expand that a little bit, and you also have this gable over door window. So using those different options, we can create a wide variety of different gable structures. So using those automatic tools, you can create the shape of your home and open up the various walls, use the concepts that we've applied here for all of our automatic tools to create a wide variety of different roof structures. So now I'm going to exit out of this plan. Again, I'm not going to save it because I'm going to open that same plan again and maximize this. So we've been working with our automatic roof tools quite a bit, which again are available in all of our Home Designer programs. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and we're going to take a look at some of our manual roof tools, which will only be available in our Home Designer Professional program. So to start with, I'm going to go back to our box and just click and drag out my exterior walls to create that box. And select Auto Rebuild Roofs so that we have that roof that's created. So this is where you would be if you just created a roof in Home Designer Professional. Now to use our manual roof tools, I'm actually going to delete all of my roof planes. And it's going to ask me, do I want to turn Auto Rebuild Roofs off? So this is where we're stepping into the realm of our manual roof tools when we turn off our Auto Rebuild Roof. So I'm going to select yes, and now we're starting with just our basic plan. And I'm going to get into a full overview so we can see there's not a roof over this structure now. There is that ceiling though, and we're going to draw out the roof. So again, I'm going to select Shift F6. I really like to work in a plan view and my 3D view side by side. I think it really helps me to see exactly what's going on, but to have the convenience of seeing the plan view as well. So under our roof tools in Home Designer Professional, we also have this roof plane tool. So to start with, I'm going to draw out the baseline. So as I said before, what that baseline is it's the point in space about which the roof plane is going to rotate when we edit the pitch. So it's always going to be on the exterior of our wall. And if we zoom in here a little bit, we might be able to see that baseline. So I'm drawing out my baseline across the wall. And then I'm going to pull it in towards the center and click. and it will draw that roof plane for me. And if we rotate around there, you can see it a little better. Now, again, I'm going to draw out my baseline across the exterior surface of the wall, and then pull it out and click. And so now we have two different roof planes, both with an 8 and 12 pitch, which is our default pitch. And next what we're going to do is we want to join the two ridges of these roof planes. We're going to create our gable structure to begin with. So I'm simply going to select the ridge of this roof plane, and down here in my edit toolbar I have join roof planes. So I will click that option and then highlight that ridge, the ridge that I want it to connect to, and click, and you can see it created the ridge of my roof. Now I can edit each of these roof planes, simply pull them out so I have a bit of overhang, and pull it out on the other side as well. You'll notice it's creating my attic wall, and because there's not a roof plane over the second half of the wall, it just created a shed roof attic wall. But as soon as I select the other roof plane and pull it out to meet up with the second one, you'll see the attic wall updates accordingly. And we'll do the same on the other side. And I do want to point out as well, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. When I have the edge of my roof plane selected, we have another temporary dimension that appears. Whereas earlier we were simply typing in the roof overhang for our automatic roofing tools, with our manual it's very simple to create the exact roof overhang simply by selecting the edge we want to move, putting our cursor right over this temporary dimension that's telling me the overhang, and typing in 18 inches. And then with the other roof plane, you can pull it out and drag it down so that you make sure, as soon as you see that hourglass, that they're lined up exactly. And so when we come over to the other side, now we have our exact 18-inch overhang. So now I'm going to use my scroll wheel and zoom out a little bit. And we're going to go to our hip structure instead. So again, this is where we have a roof plane bearing on all four of our walls. So I'm going to pull these back in, and our attic walls will again adjust. Pull it in. As soon as there's not a roof plane over a wall, the attic wall that is automatically created will delete. But we're going to draw out another roof plane on each of our left and right walls. And again, I draw out my baseline, pull it towards the center, and click to draw my roof plane. I'm going to draw out my baseline, pull it towards the center, and click. And now we have 4 roof planes. So we're going to join them in the exact same way that I joined my gable, but this time we're going to join the edges. So I'm going to select the edge, click Join Roof Planes, and select the adjoining roof plane's edge. And it will create that nice, smooth transition for me. Again, I'm going to select the edge, and it'll join them together. I'm going to do that all the way around. Join those two, and the last one, select my final edge, and join it to its adjoining roof plane. And we do have these holes that are created where the roof plane needs to come up to meet the center. So I'm going to select these edges, and just as we did to connect our top and bottom roof planes, we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to connect it to the corner. So it creates that. And one last time, join roof planes, and we'll connect it to the corner. And this one, we just need to break the line. It's one thing that's nice about our 3D view is that we can see that something's not working there. So I can simply break that line and pull it back into place. So now we have our full hip structure just as we started out with. And one thing that's nice, obviously you generally wouldn't want to create the hip roof manually, but you'll have all of the tools to do so if you need. And you can create your Dutch roof structure, your Dutch gable, which you cannot create using our automatic. So that's what we're going to do next, is create the Dutch gable. To do so, I'm going to go up to my attic floor and I'm going to turn on my reference display. We're going to go back down because I want to create a hole in which to place a wall. And I'm just going to show you what that Dutch gable looks like quickly. So that's where we have a gable roof that's behind our hip roof. I'm going to exit out of there. And again, with this roof plane selected, I'm going to use my break line tool. And that just enables me to break the line where I want to pull the roof plane back and create an opening. So now we have that hole again. And I'm going to go back up to my attic floor and it's showing me where that hole is exactly. So that when I create my exterior wall, I can draw it right along that line. Now it's telling me you're creating an object on the attic floor. Attic spaces are not meant to be living areas, but it's okay because we are just creating an actual attic wall. So I'm going to select OK, and there's the wall that appears there. Now I'm going to go back down to my first floor and select each roof plane that's adjoining it because I want to pull this roof plane so that it comes over that wall. So I'm going to break the line right where it meets up with that wall and then pull it over. And it's going to ask me if I want to pivot it. I do not. I want it to stay exactly where it is, so I'm going to say none of the above. And break the line in exactly the same place and pull that back. And again, as soon as you pull a roof plane over a wall, it's going to automatically create that attic wall for you. So it cuts the wall right where it meets the roof. And we can pull these back a little bit to create more of an overhang. And obviously by changing how far in we create our hole and where we draw the wall, you can create a larger or smaller Dutch gable depending upon what you're trying to create there. So now, earlier we did our flat roof using our automatic tools, and again we could only create that 1/4 and 12 roof pitch. But if we want to create the actual full 0 and 12, I'm actually just going to come up here and delete all my roof planes to begin with, and obviously my attic wall. So now we're going to draw out a roof plane and create an actual 0 and 12 roof pitch. So again, I'm going to draw out a roof plane and draw out my baseline and pull it across, this time all the way across the structure. And it's assuming that I'm trying to build a shed roof, which I am not, so I'm going to actually select this roof plane and open it up. Now, in Home Design and Professional, we do have the option of actually opening up the roof planes themselves. So, earlier when I was creating a hip roof or a gable roof, you can open up each roof plane and change the pitch in that way. So I'm going to change the pitch to a true 0 and 12 and select OK. And then, using my edit handles, I can pull these out, create more of an overhang. Obviously, this is not the type of material that we would use on our roof in order to have a flat roof, but it gives you an idea of how you can create that structure. And if we open up our roof plane, we can get into the Materials tab and change it to a more appropriate material for your roof. So that's how easy it is for you to create your flat roof. And again, zooming in on any edge, we can edit the distance, the overhang. So if you don't want any overhang, or if you want it to be longer, you can edit that accordingly. Alright, next we're going to exit out of this plan and we're going to open up an entirely new one. So I'm going to get into my startup options, which is going to take us back to the welcome screen. And here's a plan I've recently been working on. So here we have, I've already created this template for us to work with. So it's a home that we're going to build the roof. And if we take a 3D overview to begin with, we have everything designed. We just need to create a roof over this structure. And what we're going to be doing now is actually a 1.5 story roof, sometimes called a Cape Cod. The one that I'm designing is not really a true Cape Cod style, but essentially it's creating livable attic space. So to do that, first we're going to create a second floor, just as we did earlier. And we'll go to our floor tools, select Build New Floor, and we will derive the second floor from the first floor plan. This time, instead of taking all of our defaults, I'm going to change my rough ceiling to 0. And what that does, select OK. First we're going to edit the walls here. Again, I turned on my reference display and we'll move these out. So I do want the roof to extend over this garage area. And now we're going to take a full overview again. So when I created my second floor, it created the floor structure and it put my hardwoods on there, but it didn't create the walls or the high ceiling like it would have if I had kept the defaults. So now when we create our roof, it's essentially going to be right over our first floor. So I'm going to select Shift F6 and let's actually start building the roof. So to begin with, let's zoom in here on my floor plan, and I'm going to deselect my reference display. We're on the second floor. And now I'm going to come into the Build Roof and select Build Roof Planes, and for right now we'll select Auto Rebuild Roofs and click OK. So now we have our hip roof that's been placed basically over the first floor, though we have created a second floor for livable attic space. So now we're going to, just like with everything else, open up our walls and begin editing our roof. So first I'm going to select my left and right walls and I'm going to change them to gable. So we have a nice gable structure. Now I want to actually change this to our gambrel, so more the barn style. So I'm going to hold down my control key, select my top and bottom walls, the ones with roof planes bearing on them, open them up, and we're going to specify an upper pitch. So our first pitch is going to be 10 and 12. Our upper pitch is going to be 4 and 12, and then we're going to pull it 140 inches in from the baseline. This is a pretty big space. Select OK. And now when we rotate in 3D and zoom in a little bit, now we can see our gambrel style that was created. So next, we're going to take a look at a cross section. So we'll use a back clipped cross section, and what this does is it'll just take a section of my house so that we can see in an orthographic view exactly what's going on here. So what we're seeing here is our roof, the gambrel style. We have the first floor, and then here is the floor between our first and second story. We obviously don't have a ceiling, so we're not seeing that yet, but that's what we're going to create next. So to do this, I'm going to go into my Build Roof and uncheck Auto Rebuild Roofs. Select OK, so that now when I select this room and open it up, I can raise my ceiling height back up. So let's do 100 inches. Select OK. And now, even though I've raised my ceiling 100 inches, it didn't pull the entire second floor up 100 inches as it would have done if I hadn't turned off Auto Rebuild Roofs. So we have that ceiling, and we can see in our plan view this black dashed line that's here. That's actually telling me where my 100-inch ceiling begins. So this space is all 100 inches high, as we can see here, and then the rest is following the roof pitch. So next what we're going to do, we need to obviously have some windows to let some light into this space. So I'm going to exit out of my cross section, and we still have this overview open. And we're going to drop in some dormers. Only now we're not going to use the decorative dormers as I did before, but we're going to use our actual structural dormers. So to do that, the structural dormers like to have a wall to connect to. So first we're going to draw a straight interior wall. I'm going to draw it right along this line where our pitch starts. And now that that wall is drawn, I can come up to my roof tools and select my auto dormer tool. And I'm actually going to turn my reference display back on because I want to center this right over my bay window below. Again, just click to drop that dormer in, but I'm going to make some adjustments from here. So first I'm going to pull out this dormer to meet up with the walls below. We're going to undo that just by selecting Control Z. Actually need to change a couple of things about the dormer first. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So first, let's change the pitch to 4 in 12. So that error message that appeared earlier was telling me that I had basically too steep of a pitch to meet up with the roof. And I'm going to change the dormer height to 80, which means that my ceiling beneath the dormer is going to be 80 inches. Select OK, and so now we see that dormer pitch has adjusted. And now when I pull these out, it's going to meet up with the roof accordingly. So I'm going to use my edit handles to just pull these right out. And we'll pull it in just a little bit. And open that up. And there's our dormer. And now I'm going to drop in a couple of dormers on either side, and one centered right over our entryway. And you can see it automatically places windows, and it's going to place the default window that I have set up for my plan. And obviously this window is a little bit larger than what I would like, so I'm just going to use these edit handles, pull these in a little bit, and you can even use your center object tool, center it right over that space, and I'll pull it in a little bit further. Center it again, and then drop in a couple of windows on either side. And then we can use the edit handles in a 3D view to raise or lower the windows or edit them just like you would any other window. And I want to take a look, so we're going to take a full camera view so that we can see what's going on inside this space. So because we created that second floor, it means that we actually have floor that's going on in our full space, and then within the dormer it's giving us some space that we can see in. And the difference between this structural dormer and the floating dormers that we created before is this wall. So it's actually connecting to a knee wall, which is actually structurally how we would build our dormers. And I'm going to exit out of this space. All of this room we would open up, and we would want to make sure that we specified that as an attic. Select OK, so that our living area updates accordingly. We'll resize that so that's where the attic is. That's not going to be livable space. It'll remove the drywall, it'll remove the ceiling so that that's not being calculated in our living area either. So using our automatic roof tools, we can create a wide variety of different roof styles as I've shown you today. I do also want to point out, so the way that I created this 1.5 story is one way that you can do it. There actually is a second method, and I'm going to open up our Build Roof dialog box so I can show you. Instead of creating the second floor with a zero ceiling height, 0 inch, you can actually select this Ignore Top Second Floor, and create your 96-inch second floor, and the roof, when you build it, will ignore that second floor. So that's another option for you if you want to create it in that way. Alright, so now I actually want to turn gears a little bit and let's show you a few things on our website. So our website is homedesignersoftware.com, and here you'll find all of the products that we offer. Again, today, as I've mentioned, I was using Home Designer Professional. We do have 6 different products in this product line, and all of them will give you some automatic roof options so that you can still create all of your different roof styles. If you need help deciding which product is right for you, this product chooser can help you out with that. If you're upgrading from a previous version, here's where you would go in order to purchase that upgrade. Whether you're moving up in the product line or moving up from an older version, we'll give you credit for that version that you already own. Under User Center, we do have these downloads for additional library content. So there's quite a few additional catalogs that you can go in and download there. Pick and choose which ones you want. We also have this training videos page. Here's where you can get some additional training, and you can look for your specific version, all of the videos that apply to that. These can be really very helpful in learning the software. And it's a searchable database, so you can type in whatever you're looking to learn more about. We also have this help database, and this is a really great resource as well. What this does is it's a list of articles that our technical training department have written in order to guide you step by step through various aspects of the program. So for instance, let's just type in roof, and you'll see 77 results that appear there. And here is our automatic roof styles. So it's an article that will guide you through exactly what we went through today with our hip and gable and shed roof, so you can see all of the different options that are available there. We do also have a user forum. It's a great resource for users to get together, connect, ask each other questions, especially if there's something that's more specific to your area. That can be a great resource for you to go and ask other users how they've accomplished that in the program. So again, Emily is answering any questions that you might have. We'll be here for a few minutes after the demonstration has ended if you have any last-minute questions you want to ask her. We do have a 30-day money-back guarantee on all of our software, so it's very risk-free to get into the software, try it out. If it doesn't work for you, you can return, get a full refund. We have quite a few online resources like I just showed you to help you out. Software is very intuitive, but there's a lot to it, and we have a lot of resources to help you learn everything that you can about the program. If you need help choosing a product beyond what's simply on the website, please feel free to give us a call at one of these numbers, send us an email. We would be more than happy to help you out. So thank you so much for attending today's demonstration. Again, we'll be here for a few minutes after it's over if you want to ask any last-minute questions. Have a wonderful day.